Hey, I want to talk today about making bad choices and secondary traps associated with them. Now, most of the time when you think about making bad choices, we're taught you instinctively go to, falling for their bait, falling for their traps, and making emotional decisions as opposed to rational decisions. And there's a big part of that, but there's also an underlying problem that I think comes up a lot that you have to think about as well, because the consequences are far-reaching as well. And that's whenever you're making a decision, but you're not really looking at the long-term effect or impact of it and what it might actually mean. So you really have to look at it and decide if the decision is going to make your situation overall better for the long term. Now, this can be this can be a bunch of different things, to include emotional reactions, but also financial type decisions. And I fell into this trap myself where, I had this view when I started out. I was so angry and frustrated and bitter, and I felt that the ex was getting away with just about everything. And on top of all that, basically having the opinion that I was going to live this life of destituteness forever, it made it really tough to deal with the entire situation. Now, there's two parts to this. When this whole thing first started out, I was able to clear out all of our debt to zero. We were starting the divorce and separation basically debt-free. And obviously that didn't work out because, she was looking for everything she was entitled to. She wanted full custody. The legal battle ensued. And then shortly after the first court hearing where temporary orders were set, the financial ramifications were devastating. The amount of money that they were ordering me to pay was insane. Now, fortunately, I got all the debt paid off prior to that, so that was a good move, right? Because otherwise I would have been paying her a huge amount of money, still have been responsible for all the debt, and would have ended up going bankrupt. And unfortunately in my job, there was a possibility, at the time I thought it was a very strong possibility, that happening could destroy my career. It's a risk, but I might have been able to, I just didn't want to deal with it, right? So I was trying to hedge my bets so that wouldn't happen. And that's kind of been, a lot of the decisions I've went on have been based off of that. But so herein lies the problem. There's two parts to it. One was, as soon as custody changed, but child support didn't change, I was required to get care for the kids. I had to, I was now taking them to school half the time. I was feeding, I had them half the time, and the numbers didn't change. So I was basically doing that without any money. So, what do? You start looking for credit cards or other alternative means, any savings you have, you start burning through it, and your money runs out really quick. But so then there was a second part to this. As the ex was messing with me more, I basically got angry, and I'm like, you know what, F you, I'm going to live my life, I'm going to do things, I'm going to take the kids to places and do things with them, I'm going to buy things for myself. And I did, right? I started spending money that I didn't have, and part of the idea behind it is I assumed wrongly that within a couple of years, because this is what my attorney had told me, within 2 years, they would impugn her wages, child support would stop. Even if she didn't get a job, it would stop it down to minimum wage, which would be a huge relief. And I figured, okay, there's no way, there's no way in the world she's not going to get a job, right? I was just like, I couldn't even fathom that, looking at it now, almost 6 years later, she's still not working. I just would have never imagined that in a million years. So I figured, okay, well, I just have to, tread water for 2 years, and then the financial situation will change. Now, when I say tread water, I wasn't thinking, okay, well, I'm going to live like these current numbers are exactly the way it's going to be for the next 4 or 5 years. I'm assuming that things are going to change, and something is going to change, and I'll get some relief. So some of the things that I was leaning forward on, I would be able to pay off. That was a huge, colossal, devastating mistake. I absolutely shouldn't have done that. So, and here's what I want to mention on that is, if you get in that situation and you're looking at it and you're getting frustrated and you're thinking, you know what, forget this, I'm going to do certain things because, she's not going to, or they're not going to negatively impact my life. Guys, don't go down that path. And I'm not even sure what somebody would have been able to say to me to get me to make my peace with it back then, because I was so angry and frustrated and bitter that the entire thing just infuriated me. And that's part of the problem, is when you feel like they're getting away with everything, you're trying to find some type of way to fight back. And it's easy to get into that trap. And that's why I call it a secondary trap, because you start doing things, you start justifying it, and then before you know it, you're like, oh crap, I'm out of money. I don't have any, I did, guys. I backed myself into a corner. I mean, I didn't have any, I didn't really want a lot of credit cards. So when I started this whole thing, I didn't have that, but I had a line of credit, and I did have a credit card with my bank. Those got ran up, and I mean, just because it's like, you turn around, boom, car insurance is due, you have to pay it. Child care is due, you have to pay it. The kids need something, you have to pay it. Medical bills, you have to pay it. I mean, and now, so there was legitimate things, but there were also things that I shouldn't have spent money on. And this is what I look at today. When I look at it right now, had I been able to keep that under control and really hunker down and just not not use the credit cards and not go down that path, the position I would be in today would be a heck of a lot better. Now, it's not bad. Things are basically going okay. But when I look at my finances and I look what I'm paying on credit cards and lines of credits and attorney fees, which I guess you can't really get out of that, but all these different things, it's like, if I would have slowed down, then the amount of debt I currently have would be a lot less. What I'm paying would be a lot less, and I'd be in a much better position. And now, 6 years down the road, instead of having all these bills, I wouldn't have them. And I would have a heck of a lot more money to, basically play with, if you want to call it that I don't have now. I mean, now I'm looking at a situation where it's still going to take years and years to dig myself out of this hole. Now, I will say that before I started this channel, I did go through this phase where I just got really anal retentive on managing money. I mean, I was tracking every dollar. I was budgeting everything. And what I would do is, I would get paid every 2 weeks when I would get paid, whatever was left over that wasn't spent from that first paycheck, I would pull it out and put it in a different account. And I kept doing that, and I kept doing that. And I started focusing down on, just treading water, using the minimum amount of money that I possibly could. I mean, when I would go to the grocery store, I had a budget of like, I think if I was doing it right, it was like $150 every 2 weeks to feed a family of 4 half the time. It was tough. I mean, it was really, but I did it, right? It was tough, but I did it, and I started saving money. Now, since then, I started this YouTube channel, and pretty much I wiped out my entire savings and ran other things up to try to do all this stuff, which that's a whole nother thing. Looking at that's again another, now this has nothing to do with the X, but this also is looking at it as, I made decisions pushing out farther, expecting certain things to happen, and they didn't happen. So now I have, that debt lined up. So my point on this is that, especially on the money side of it, really be cautious about where you put your money. It doesn't matter whether you were making $100,000 a year before and now you're making equivalent to 32 because of your divorce. And I'm just throwing numbers out there, but I mean, there's a significant hit. What you need to do is you need to basically acclimate yourself to that new level. And I know it sucks, but it's temporary, right? So if you can do that, if you can get yourself basically conditioned to survive on that, minimalistic amount of money and make it happen, then later as things change, maybe if you're going to school and you graduate and you start making more money, then you know how to live on less, and now you have more to deal with. Or like in my situation where, I have money, and then as kids drop off, it's going to basically be like pay raises. And then you're in a much better position moving forward. And I would highly encourage you to pause and really think about it. Now, I know there's certain things you need to do, and there's certain things that you're going to have to struggle with, but if at all possible, I would strongly encourage you to really think about those decisions that you make, because they can really keep you trapped or help set you free, right? And bottom line is, what you're looking to do is you're looking to break free from this situation as quickly as possible, regain your life, and be able to start moving forward. And if you're stuck in that situation where you just feel like you're just irritated and you kind of want to do retail therapy, in some ways, just to maybe even get back to the ex, like, you're not breaking me, or you're not doing, you're not controlling my life. Don't fall into that trap, because it'll cause you problems. Now, like I said before, in my situation, I was looking at it thinking, well, in 2 years, I'm gonna, things are gonna change and get a lot easier. And I always thought that she would stop playing these stupid games, but I was wrong. And and now I'm paying the price for it. So hopefully you won't have to do that. And yeah, so hopefully that makes sense. Maybe I rambled on too much on this one. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this. I would imagine there's a few people out there who probably have fallen in the same mindset that I've had on this, where you kind of validated or justified certain things you were going to do, thinking you understood the situation, and then realizing later that you might have been a little wrong. So on that, I will chat with you guys on the next video, and take care. Bye.